Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also a best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock the potentials and guide them to succeed. Today, I have an amazing guest. This person I met at an online networking group. And once I heard him speak, once I heard his story, I said, I have to get this person on my show. And I'm very, very lucky to have him here today. He is in an industry that's been tried, tested, and true for generations. And it's absolutely incredible how this industry is still very, very relevant today. He is with the Touch Canada broadcasting stations. He is in sales. He's been in sales since the age of 17. He loves to provide hope, encouragement for people during hard times, and he loves inspiring others to keep on going and pushing forward. So please welcome radio advertising strategist, Mr. RYLEY Strand.
Thanks, Fong. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. And how's your day been going?
So far, it has been an awesome day. We got a really cool letter from a listener about the hope that we provided for her over the last year, actually, and just how this last year has kind of changed her life, tuning into Shine and the encouragement that was provided for her there. So it's been a really cool day that way.
That's good. All those wins usually adds up, right? It gives you that motivation to try and help other people and push that forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. For people who don't really know who you are and what you do, what exactly do you do in the radio business?
Well, typically I do as little as I can get away with. No, I'm just kidding. What I do is I sit down with business owners and help them figure out, is Shine FM or Touch Canada Broadcasting a fit for their business growth? Is radio a fit for their business growth? Because, as you well know, all businesses grow differently. And so to say that radio can help everyone, well, that'd be exaggerating the situation. And we're good for helping a lot of businesses. And so what I do is I help businesses figure out what is the best way for them to grow. Can I help them, or do I have to introduce them to somebody else?
Mm-hmm. Now, for somebody like yourself, how did you get into the radio business?
I fell into it like everybody else who does things they love. I was going to school for business, and my guidance counselor, she said, RYLEY, you're headed down the right track, but I think you should go into sales. Don't go into business. Go into sales. You'll have a lot more fun. And right after that, the sales jobs that I was working, one of them tried to take away my Sundays, and I'm a Christian, so it was like, okay, I'm not giving up my Sundays. And then Shine started advertising, and it's all about who you know. A buddy of mine who worked there knew me in high school and had seen me sell in other places and was like, RYLEY's got to get here. And so he put in a good word for me. Shine actually taught me how to sell radio. Mm-hmm. How does it work? Why does it work? And what's the wrong way to use it? And that's kind of how it all started for me. I left all my other sales jobs and was like, I'm doing this. This is what I want to see invested in, because I know a lot of people who have actually overcome huge challenges, partially due to the encouragement they received from Shine FM.
Mm-hmm. Well, now you mentioned the wrong way of using radio. Share with us, what is the absolutely wrongest way? Is wrongest a word? Anyway, wrongest way to use radio.
It's a word today. And you know what? It's not that necessarily people use it wrong. It's that expectations are set wrong. Mm-hmm. I talk to a lot of business owners. I cold call a lot. That's my part of my role, is reaching out to business owners, seeing how they're doing, and are they looking for other ways to grow their business? And 9 times out of 10, I'll call somebody and they'll say, I tried radio, it didn't work. Okay, what did you try? And oftentimes, they've had someone who coached them, hyped up the product so much, they oversold it. And then the client gets a couple of months in and they're going, well, I haven't seen this hundreds of results that I thought I should get by now. And it's like, well, yeah, because radio is relationship building. It's like networking. Networking works because we see each other consistently. We have visits like this. We build trust. And radio is the same thing. It builds credibility, it builds trust, and as a result, builds sales. But that takes time.
And I'm assuming a lot of people just expect, oh, one spot goes out, I'm going to get a whole bunch of calls.
Typically, yeah. I mean, I get a lot of people that they're like, you've got 2 weeks to make me successful, and it's like, all right, you need to spend at least 4 times what I was initially planning on spending for you then, because then it's all about how frequently they're being heard. And how quickly can we build that relationship for them.
Now, when it comes to technology nowadays, people are talking about social media. They're talking about Facebook posts, marketplace. We're talking YouTube channels, and they go, radio. That's old-fashioned. That's not for me. That's for those old folks way back in the day. It does not work now. But you're making it work for a lot of businesses out there. So why is it that radio is still relevant, and why is it still so effective in this day and age?
Absolutely. Well, a lot of it comes back to, you kind of alluded to it there. It's for those older people. Are those older people your customer? Because they're tuned into radio. They're not looking at social media for a trusted product. There was a study done just recently here in the States, showed that radio's credibility and trust in the homes was still way up here. And when we see something on social media now, we don't trust social media. I'm not saying social media is not a good way to grow your business. It is. And what we've done with radio is we've found ways to help collaborate the online marketing with the radio advertising so that the two work together. I never encourage a business owner to do just one thing. If they're going to do online, well, they should have, depending on what kind of business they're in, they should have 2 or 3 other forms of marketing that are just touch points. And that's what makes it work.
Do you have one success story that you could share with us where radio has absolutely transformed that person's business?
Absolutely. Absolutely transformed. We were part of the process. One of the clients that I work with, he's a mechanic in Edmonton, and he's tried other stations, and it was like, radio is just not a thing. It's not working. But he loves Shine FM. He's a Christian himself and wanted to support the station. And so he's like, you know what, I'll give RYLEY a shot. Within the first 3 to 6 months or something like that, we had 6 new clients for him. He kept going because he listened to what I said and said, do it consistently, keep going. Then he started getting 2 or 3 leads a week. When the pandemic hit, he started upping it. It got upped to 3 to 5 leads a week. Because our listeners were calling in and going, who's still open? How can we help our clients? That is one thing about a Shine listenership or a Christian radio listenership. They take ownership of the businesses that are involved in their station. I've had a number of clients that call me and they're like, why are your listeners referring to Shine as their radio station? You're like, do they own stocks or something? But no, they don't. They just love being part of their business, their radio station.
Now, working with so many different owners and so many different businesses and helping them to succeed, what would you say, if you could share, the secret sauce or secret formula as to how you could use radio to really propel a person's business? Is there a magic number as to how many times you have your hit points? How do you formulate your copy? What kind of headline do you need? Like, what's that secret formula that you need?
Absolutely. So it's not, the formula changes business to business. I'm sure you would agree that a real estate business has very different needs and objectives as a car dealership. So what the car dealership would need to do, maybe they need really, really high frequency with that hyped up ad, and that works to sell cars. But if you're wanting to build, you're a trades owner, you're an electrician or a plumber, and you want to build trust in the long term. Well, then you still got a frequency in number of ads. You want to be running a minimum of 21 ads a week. And that, again, depends on the format of the station. If you're running on a heavy rock station, you need higher frequency because you have lower listening time. People don't tune in for as long, whereas our listeners tend to tune in for an average of 4 hours a day. So we can get away with a little bit lower frequency. And then there's got to be a hook. Why are they calling you? I had a guy recently, he's like, yeah, I want to do 1 week of ads just to let people know I'm here. I'm like, that's great, but how are you going to know it's successful?
Mhm.
Oh, I'm actually closed that week. Okay, no, we're not doing this. Keep your money. Like, come back to me when you can invest in radio and do it properly, because I don't want to just waste your money on you.
Mhm. Now, when it comes to advertising, then, and somebody goes, okay, I have X amount of money. Okay, this is my budget.
Yeah.
What would you recommend that within that budget, how much of that should go to radio?
Well, personally, I mean, again, it depends on what size of budget. Are we talking like 10,000 a month, $50,000 a month? What kind of an advertising budget are they working with? Because if they're working with, let's say they only have $1,000 a month,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to split that budget. That should go to one place. If they're working with, 5,000 plus, now you can start splitting it up. And I would probably recommend having about 30% of it in radio, 30% of it in another format, and then the other 40% in something else.
Mhm.
And again, that also comes down to what kind of station you're using, because then you're also seeing a price variance just from station to station based on their rankings or the kind of customers that are listening.
Mhm.
Right?
Is there benefits in being on multiple stations then?
As long as the customer is there.
Mhm.
So the biggest part of my job is figuring out if let's say you want a dry cleaning company, does your customer listen to Shine FM? If they do, then yes, it's beneficial to be there. If they don't, and you're just putting your ad there for the sake of listening to your ad on your station, I wouldn't do it.
No, that's very well said. It's like the target market is absolutely important, and it's very important for all businesses. And understanding that is very, very crucial for any success for a business. Is there what kind of process do you go through when somebody approaches you and go, you know what, I have this business and I need to work with somebody to get it out there? And I'm debating whether it's radio, or I'm debating whether it's a TV ad, or should I go with a press release and get some newsprint out there? How do you help them and guide them so that picking radio is the right way for them?
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great question. So we do a customer needs analysis with each customer when they approach us, and it's designed to help us figure out, can they invest in radio properly, but also, where are their customers? And so we actually do some coaching as well on what other forms of advertising should they use. And like I've been working in advertising for over 9 years now. I have connections in a lot of digital format advertising. I have connections in paper and print. And I'm happy to make sure those people are put in front of the right people. And we also we want to look at, capacity. What's their capacity growth? What's their timeline for that growth? And that helps us figure out where they should put their dollars. Because if their timeline is short, I had a client actually. He came to me and he's like, "You have 3 months to get me success," which is a little scary, because typically my ideal is to use a campaign that's a little lower dollar value, and build trust with the listenership over time, and then let that trust build the sales. But he's like, "Okay, you got this amount of time. All right, we need to quadruple your buy."
Mm-hmm.
So we took him from running 3 ads a day to 12. And within a month and a half, he was getting successful ROI because he was frequent enough to make it work. But not everyone has the capacity to do that either, or the capacity for growth in that matter. So that's what we look at is figuring out for that business, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned before you were in sales before you got into radio, and you've been in sales since a very early age. What would you say is the key factors as to why sales is something that people aren't really keen on?
Because none of us like rejection.
Well, then, why people aren't keen on it, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, so for me, I've always seen, I think what I said there a second ago, people aren't keen on being in sales because, they don't like the way sales, they think that sales is manipulative. My dad actually at one point told me not to go into sales because his idea of a salesperson was that slick back hair and cheesy lines, which I got loads of those, minus the slick back hair. But it wasn't about building trust with the customer and figuring out what product suited their position. And for me, that's how I overcame it, honestly, was making sales about finding out what the customer needs and filling that need instead of making a sale. So I don't always sell radio. Sometimes I introduce somebody else. And that was how I overcame it, was making sure that whatever I did was for the betterment of the customer.
Is there something that you found was very difficult for you to actually overcome when it comes to sales?
Initially, the biggest challenge initially was getting over, I think, the phone, because I'm a cold caller, oftentimes, and it's hard to pick up the phone and talk to a stranger and say, "Hey, I want to sell you a product." And then it's finessing how to do that, because initially when you're really rough around the edges and, "Hey, here's the product I sell," and blah blah blah, you sound like an auctioneer. And so one of the things that changed me for that was actually the book Convince Them in 90 Seconds, and just how to approach people on a personal level and build that rapport instead of just pitching.
Well, cold calls are one of those things that a lot of people are afraid of. And they're picking up the phone, they're dialing the phone, and they're like, "Please don't pick up, please don't pick up." And they did not pick up. Well, one call then, right? So what's your opening line? How do you get on the call with that person, and what do you say first?
Well, with Shine, the first thing that I say is, if I'm talking, once I've got the person that I want to talk to, the first thing I say is that there may be nothing for us to talk about. And I'll just say, my name is RYLEY Strand, I'm with Shine FM, and I'm calling, but there might be nothing for us to talk about. My goal is to see if our station can benefit your growth. And when you open that way and they're like, "Well, okay, yeah, let's talk about that," because you're not selling them anything. You're just starting a conversation. And that's, whenever I cold call, my goal is, let's make a friend and see how I can help them.
And even to this day, how many times do you get somebody go, "Not interested," and then hang up?
Not very often.
Very good.
Usually I can get a bit of a conversation in, build some rapport. Maybe they aren't ready to do radio today, and that's fine. Because like I've said earlier, my product is not the be all and end all for everybody. And I have clients that have been 5 years in the making. When I first talked to them, they weren't ready. It wasn't time. But I stayed in touch, we built a friendship, and then when the time came that it made sense for them to invest in their growth through radio, we were able to help them.
Now, you mentioned many times about relationship building. What would you say is the 3 main factors as to how you build strong relationships?
That's a good question. Often I'm bad at putting labels on, what are the 3 things that you do? But, for me, it's just being open to communication, open conversation, open body language. Again, that's kind of going back to the Convince Them in 90 Seconds, which sounds like a manipulation book, but it's not. It's all about, keeping open posture and building a relationship, building that rapport. But how does that do? How are you perceived? And so for me, I try and I manipulated how I'm perceived a little bit so that I can start the conversation. I wear a bow tie because it's quirky. I don't know if I'm even answering your question at this point. Refresh my memory on the question.
Building relationships.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I kind of headed the right direction. But just being open to where the relationship can go. Asking questions, staying curious. I'm reading a book right now. What's the title of the book? It's called The Advice Trap. And what it is, it's about not jumping to advice, not jumping into, here's what you need to do. Instead, staying open and asking more questions and being curious longer. And I think that curiosity for longer is just key to building relationship.
Would you say that your communication and the way you speak, the way you present yourself is something that you've worked on for a period of time before you got to this level?
Oh, I would say, and I'd say I've still got a long ways to go. I mean, I've stumbled over a number of things during our conversation, and I've had you repeat questions to me. So, yes, it's been a long process of working on that communication style and asking the right questions and staying open to the answer, not thinking about, oh, what do I need to say next? You know, which is, I'm kind of glad you didn't send me the questions ahead of time, just because it means that, we got to have a conversation.
Yeah. When it comes to cold calling, one of the books I've read was that you need to stand up, you need to walk around, you need to see your face in the mirror and all kind of stuff, just to have that right demeanor, have that right positive energy. Is there something that you do where it allows you to get the right energy across, even though if the person can't see you?
It's funny, actually, I do a lot of those things. Minus the mirror. I don't like the mirror when I'm cold calling, because then I'm watching. Same with Zoom. I turn off the self view because I don't want to see what I look like, because then I'm judging myself. No, I do a lot of those things. I stand up, I walk around. According to my coworkers, I yell at my clients. It's not that I'm actually yelling. I'm a little passionate. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. And I tell jokes on the phone. When I used to sell a product called Cutco, my opening line was, so-and-so and so-and-so. I just showed them our product. They loved it. They thought you'd like it too. Oh, what's your product? You mean you didn't see the trained zoo animals in their backyard? Man, I thought you could see those from the street. And they laugh, and we had a good time, and you go from there. But yeah, I tell jokes when I'm on the phone as much as I can, get people laughing.
Now, there are people out there who go, you know what, I don't think I'm that funny. Or I'm afraid to tell a joke because what if it isn't funny, right? A lot of that has to do with confidence. And a lot of that has to do with just not worrying too much about what other people will think. Is that something that you built yourself up to, where, you know what, this is me, this is how I am, this is how I present myself, whatever people say, well, let them say it.
Absolutely. Well, and part of that confidence actually came from radio, not being in radio, but some of the things that we know about people and how memory works. The reality is, if something is meaningful, after 58 seconds, people remember more of it than what, let's say you say something to me and it just really touches me. I'm going to hold on to that. And then the next day, I'll probably still remember 70% of what you said. Mm-hmm. But if you say something to me like a passing comment of, oh, I like your bow tie, I'm touched. But after 33 seconds, we've moved on with our conversation. And that's way with radio, and that's how it works for me. I'm like, if I say something stupid, maybe they laugh about it for 30 seconds and they move on with their life. The reality is, I'm not going to have that much of an impact on their life. Or like I used to be a BNI member, and I do a lot of networking, as you know. And if I tell myself before I stand up, if I make a fool of myself, chances are by the next meeting, they'll all have forgotten.
Yeah, people have short memories. When it comes to this current time with COVID and everything shut down, have you found that your approach is different? Did you have to change anything with regards to how you talk to people or how you present the product?
No, not really. I mean, for me, the biggest change that happened was everything moved over to Zoom. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was very much, I love coffee shops and sitting down, having a conversation. And that hasn't changed for me. My goal is always, with every client, have a conversation and see where they're at. Can I help them? The pandemic didn't really change that, because more than ever, I think people needed someone who they could talk to, bounce ideas off of, figure out where they were going, because things were constantly changing. Mm-hmm. And I think that became even more valuable now than more than ever. Maybe there wasn't as much of a jump to, okay, here's what you need to do in radio. Sometimes there was a little more coaching of, okay, you should try this, this, and this, and then let's implement the radio. Right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. When it comes to your motivation, okay, you're a very driven individual. You constantly want to grow. You constantly want to learn, but sometimes motivation doesn't always stay there. So how do you keep that motivation up? How do you start your day?
So for me, I mean, how do I start my day? I work out every morning. I never thought I'd be the guy who got up every morning and worked out. Honestly, I used to make fun of those guys because I was like, man, that's crazy, you know. But I'm up at 4:30, 4:45 every morning. I work out for an hour. For me, though, motivation for me comes from a couple different places. One, first and foremost, my family. I am very proud to say that, you know, my wife doesn't have to work and she gets to be a stay-at-home mom because that was her dream. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that keeps me motivated is the additional support that we're providing to our listeners. Now, I alluded earlier to a story that we had just gotten from a listener, but there's a lot of people who write into Shine and say, thank you for what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You know, one of my best friends growing up nearly committed suicide, and it was, you know what, rewind that. I'm going to change the story here. I tell it that way because you don't always want to show weakness. It was actually when I was 16, I almost committed suicide. And it was one of the DJs at Shine FM who talked me out of it. Mm-hmm. Now, to be clear, I didn't have a plan. I wasn't headed in a direction. But from that moment on, I was like, okay, I want to help Shine. I don't know what that means yet. I'm 16 years old, but I want to help Shine. And that's when, you know, when this advertising thing came available, you know, for me, I love the fact that I get to help businesses grow and it helps support somebody else somewhere else who needs that encouragement.
Well, it's absolutely amazing how something that happened very, very long time ago eventually comes to fruition because of that one item, and you kind of kept that in your mind. And you go, you know what, this is my calling kind of thing. And I think you found your calling because you've been able to help so many different people. And not only in a business sense, but also through the company, helping other people from their mental state, their own personal issues and whatnot. And it's a great thing to be a part of.
Yeah, you know, I absolutely love what I do. I get up every morning. You just talked about, you know, how do you stay motivated? It's pretty easy.
That's awesome, because lots of people are struggling with motivation, especially during this period of time, right? They wake up, oh, I'm stuck at home again. What do I do? How do I boost up that energy? And just finding that passion, finding that calling will help you move along from that motivation standpoint. When it comes to being able to prepare yourself for a call or prepare yourself for a very important kind of meeting or whatnot, what do you do when it comes to that?
Yeah. So for me, I always I take a few minutes, and I'm a Christian, so you can cut this part if you want. No, I'm just kidding. I take a few minutes and pray. You know, I invite God into the call. I also go over my notes about the client, what I know, and I ask God that His will. I try and take myself out of the call. That's the first thing I try and do, is whatever happens during that call, that it's not my will. Because as salespeople, you know, we're taught to ask questions to head people off in a certain direction. And I try and make sure that when I go into a meeting, that's not what we're doing. Mm-hmm. That we're going to have a genuine conversation and it's going to go where it's supposed to go. And that's, yeah, I think that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's good. Taking yourself out of it so that just let it go authentically. And then also letting it kind of live the way it lives and then see where the relationship goes. Yeah, that works very well. For a lot of us, getting into whichever industry you're in, you're usually going to have that mentor, that coach, somebody that guides you along to get you on the right path to succeed. What would you say is one of the most important advices that your coaches or mentors has given you?
Well, there's a few. I mean, one of them, actually, I keep it written on my whiteboard. And it's something my dad used to say to me. Because, you know, so when I was born, I was born with a hole in my heart. I had a mass seizure. I had a stroke when I was 3 months old. And there's a whole schmozzle of things that happened that should have knocked me out. And whenever I was learning to do something, because my left side's not useful, it's so easy to give up. And do you know Star Wars movie where that line where they're in space, they're fighting, they're trying to destroy the Death Star, and someone is just, I can't remember even who said it, but it's just stay on target. Whenever I'm challenged or struggling with something, that line in my dad's voice runs through my head. Stay on target. Figure it out. Find the other approach. And those other two parts are not in Star Wars, but that stay on target line is what hits me every time.
Mm-hmm. So is your coach your dad, or is it Han Solo?
I mean, can it be both?
It was Han Solo that said it, right?
I don't think it was Han Solo. It was. This is horrible.
I'm testing my Star Wars trilogy right now.
See, anyway. I don't think it was even one of the main characters. I think it was one of the X-Wing flyers.
I think so. You're right. My final formal question is: you have the opportunity to speak to everyone in the world to spread one message. What message would that be?
Never give up. Figure out what you want. Go for it. I mean, you give me a platform to say whatever I want. I'm gonna say, figure out. How do I say this? Figure out where you stand with God. This shouldn't be hard for me to say as a Christian, but it is, because there's mixed feelings towards God for everybody, and I think that is the most important thing. Is everyone needs to figure out. I'm reading a lot right now about how different religions have portrayed God and whatnot, and I'm a follower of Jesus of the Bible. Love your neighbor. That's the number one priority, and that's, for me, that would be the one thing. Especially right now, all of us need that. We need to love our neighbors, because we need each other. Someone earlier in a networking meeting today said, we were talking about masterminds, and on our own we're all just a brushstroke, but together we're a beautiful painting. Yep. He had some other fancy word for the painting, but I can't think of the fancy word.
All good. I have 5 more questions. Just give me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Right. I know you're not usually on the air or doing a radio show, but let's imagine that you are, and somebody walks in and go, I have the best guest for you. Who do you wish that guest is? Dead or alive, of all time, anybody in the world?
I mean, the obvious answer is Jesus Christ. But second to that would be Zig Ziglar.
Very well said. Zig Ziglar is in your kitchen. He is hungry. Is there a special dish that you could prepare for him?
I mean, are we? I would probably feed him lutefisk, but that's just because I'm a jerk. So I don't know if you know what lutefisk is. Lutefisk is a Norwegian dish. It's cod soaked in lye and rehydrated. Often served with akavit and lefse.
Nice to know.
Most people, who, if they hear the word, when they watch this podcast and hear the word lutefisk, they're going to think of paint peeling off the walls, because it's not a pleasant dish. It's an acquired taste, but it's one of my favorites.
Well, as it's your favorite, you just want to spread the love.
Yeah. And see the look on his face.
All right. You get a chance to perform on stage. Anything that you want, a hidden talent, what would that be?
It'd probably be comedy. I just enjoy seeing people laugh. And my favorite part of my job has always been getting people to change perspective. And that's, I think, what laughter does that really well. What
is your best joke?
Oh, here's the thing. I'm situationally funny. I'm not usually a joke guy.
Okay, I'll let you pass on that then. You're in the circus. Which role do you play?
All right. If this is a circus role, probably throwing knives. My dad taught me to throw knives when I was a kid because it was a hand-eye coordination sport.
Cool. And can you still do it?
Oh yeah.
With good aim?
Reasonable aim.
So within what? Centimeters or within like meters?
Depends on the knife. I have several different, I've thrown with several different knives, and some of them, there was one set that I threw with, and someone had sat on it and it curved the steel. So if he didn't throw it like a boomerang, it didn't stick.
Awesome. And my last question is, what is success like? But before you answer that question, give me a number between 1 to 4.
Okay, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. So how is success like parachute pants?
I'd have to know what parachute pants are for that to be.
Pants that look like parachutes.
So like bell bottoms?
I think they're like, isn't that what MC Hammer wore?
Can I Google it so I know what I'm talking about?
Sure, go ahead. Just so that people know we're doing this live and impromptu.
I think that's obvious when I couldn't answer the question. Images. Okay. I mean, okay. So parachute pants often are bigger and they don't look like they fit well. And I think oftentimes when we're successful, we don't feel like it fits. Doesn't feel, it's almost surreal. Mm-hmm. And it's coming back to a place of humility and going, okay, I need, when you walk humbly within the parachute pants, there's some of them I see that are fitting, but it's, I think that it's success often feels like it doesn't fit properly. We never feel like we deserved it.
Very well said. I do. That is a very good answer for it. Very good. Very, very well done. That is our interview for today. I will let you have your final words. Do you have anything you want to share still?
I've really enjoyed this, Fong. This is my first podcast I've ever been on. Apologize if I made you look awful by stumbling over questions, but it was fun. This was a lot of fun, and I think the last thing I would say to everybody is, I was reading a book today, and it said, where'd that quote go? Hold on, just 1 second. I actually saved it so I could actually go back and look at it and pin it somewhere. But your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. And just that, don't wait till tomorrow to succeed, and take success today by doing the consistent actions you can.
Very well said, and a good send-off. Actually, one more question for you. What's the best way to get in touch with you if anybody has any questions regards to radio?
Sure. Hitting me up through LinkedIn is always great. I also have a Facebook page, RYLEY Strand at Shine FM. And, you can also give me a call, 587-404-6433.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Once again, thanks for your time, your stories, your advice, and the laughter. I had a lot of fun with you today because there's a lot of great impromptu moments that was very memorable. And that's it. So thank you very much again. He is RYLEY Strand. My name is Fong. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.